Welcome into the Locked On Packers Squad Show. I'm Brandon Szmyt. It doesn't get much uglier than that for head coach Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers.
This loss is the worst regular season loss of the Matt LaFleur era. I'm Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers. This was embarrassing.
This is Coach Jags. Hey, you win some, and then you learn some. Hopefully we'll learn from this.
Go Pack Go! It's the Packers Squad. Everything Green Bay Packers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Titletown. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the frozen tundra with all the cheeseheads, the Packers Squad Show starts now.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you will certainly find the Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And for the fans who unfortunately know what happened today, they want to know why and how. As always, thanks to everyone for making Locked On Packers part of their day each and every day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for this week's highlight, moving the game forward. Mazda, move and be moved, alongside my guys, Peter Bukowski and Coach Jeff Jagosinski. My name is Brandon Szmyt, and gentlemen, this is about as embarrassing of a loss for the Green Bay Packers that I can recall in recent memory. Peter, the Packers were up double digits late in this one, an interception, a blocked field goal, and then eventually a walk-off field goal for the Cleveland Browns. Your initial thoughts after a 13-10 loss for Green Bay in Cleveland, their first of this season?
This game was lost when they took the field. They were not ready to play from the rip, and it was a mentality problem. And I'm sure Coach is going to come in and tell me why I'm wrong about this, and I'll take it. But I just felt like they played like they prepared. And I think they prepared all week not to lose. I've never heard a broadcast talk about Matt LaFleur the way that they were saying Matt LaFleur was scared of Myles Garrett. I've never heard that. And you could see it from jump. They were so worried about Myles Garrett. They got out of everything they wanted to do, everything that they are offensively. They got out of it because they were so worried Myles Garrett was going to wreck the game. They won the toss. They deferred. They didn't take the ball. They didn't play aggressively. This was a preparation problem to me. And Coach Jags and I, Coach, we talked about this on Locked On Packers on Friday. The penalties, could they clean them up? 14 penalties in this game. You're not going to beat anybody.
No, that's really ugly.
On the road.
Yeah, I agree. 14 penalties, 22 penalties. The whole game was just sloppy. It was really sloppy. But here's what it looked like to me, too, Peter, is that if you were in the offensive staff room in Cleveland, offensive staff room in Green Bay, how are we going to stop the game wrecker? And that was very evident by both sides because both teams tried doing exactly the same thing with double teaming, sometimes triple teaming, at 3 guys over there to try to stop that because both those guys are so damn disruptive. But we talked about going on the road, Peter. We just did. It's different, right? I mean, you're traveling, you have to fly, you're dehydrated. And I'm not giving excuses, but there's just the things that you have to deal with the crowd, and you're the underdog as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, how many pre-snap penalties, Coach, today? Half a dozen?
I don't know. But remember we talked about this, Peter, on your show on Friday. What was that, right? Pre-snap penalties is a lack of concentration. Full stop. Full stop. It doesn't take any talent to stay on sides or count to 2 or line up. And I mean, love Micah. He's a great player, but he can't line up off sides twice. And he did it.
And on the final drive, they moved the ball into field goal range in part because Micah Parsons on 1st and 10 lines up offsides on a play where you get a pass breakup. Like you get a stop and you gift them 5 yards. Like it was that stuff all game. And I just didn't think that there was the Harold Fannin play encapsulates the problem with the day. They had Harold Fannin Jr. tackled 4 yards short of the sticks. And it was Quay Walker and someone else had him. And Keyshawn Nixon and Evan Williams, if this had been the Commanders game, if this had been the Lions game, they'd have ran and punched at the ball. But against this team, because they should beat this team, right? We all picked the Packers to win big. Mm-hmm. They're watching. And what does Harold Fannin do? He slithers out, gains 4 more yards, 5 more yards, picks up the first down. That just would not have happened last week or the week before. They did not come out from, and even in the game, once they realized this is going to be harder than we thought, it's like you can't adjust that intensity on the fly. You can't be all of a sudden like, oh, shoot, we got to play now. No, they prepared all week. Like they could just show up, play not to lose, and win, and it bit him in the ass.
Were you guys as confused as me? And Coach and I were kind of talking about this a little bit ago. What was the game plan offensively for
I don't know.
Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and the Green Bay offense, right? Like we were in the group chat, we're talking. I'm like, after the first drive, after the field, I think it was before the field goal, actually, we're like, all right, here comes the Josh Jacobs drive, because you could tell they were going to try to force feed him, and that's certainly what they did. And I think it did equal out to 3 points for them. But Peter, it felt like all game, like they had no idea what they were doing, right? A lot of end arounds for Matthew Golden. Again, like they weren't pushing the ball downfield. You mentioned LaFleur, kind of, he coached scared today. Like he was petrified of Myles Garrett. This is a team that, yes, their defense is good. I understand on paper it's a good defense, but it doesn't mean they just lost 41-17 to the Baltimore Ravens a week ago. Like they're
what doesn't make sense to me, Brandon, is we saw them against the blitz the first 2 weeks, pick up the blitz like it was nothing, right? They had everything blocked up. They had all the protection set. They executed really, really well. Jags, we talked about, picking up stunts and staying square to the line of scrimmage, the offensive linemen. They didn't do that today. They got beat up and down the field. Malik Collins, is winning. They had to play one of the first drives in the first quarter. All 3 interior offensive linemen lose against 2 defenders. That should be impossible, but it's not, because you couldn't pick up a stunt. You got double beat on a stunt.
Were they turned? I bet you they were. They were.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Banks, I think Aaron Banks might have gone the wrong way, but then Elton Jenkins gets lost inside. His guy wins. And then Jordan Morgan's guy, or I guess, I don't remember who exactly the right guard was at the time. Mayo, Sean Ryan, his guy loops around, and that's the guy that gets the sack. And it's just sort of like, those are the mistakes you cannot have. And they didn't have in the first 2 weeks. It is about details. The margin is so slim, guys. Like how many games over the weekend? We were talking about this on Saturday night. Like the college game, when you have a good team against a bad team, most of the time, it just is ugly because there's just such a talent difference. In the NFL, that doesn't exist. So you have to be on your details every single week. And the details in every facet of this game were bad. And let's not even start talking about Rich Bisaccia stealing money for the 3rd year in a row. Like, I don't know what's going on. This to me, I know the players have to play. And if Jags wants to disagree, he can disagree. I felt like the coaches did not have them ready to play. The players didn't have them ready to play. We talked about this too, Jags, on our show. The Jordan Loves of the world, the Xavier McKinney's of the world, the Josh Jacobs of the world. Josh Jacobs, you can't fumble the ball as you're going down to kick what should have been the game. Like, no one showed up to play in this game except maybe Rashawn Gary.
Yeah. Here's the thing, guys. 5 sacks. So here's the deal. We were talking.
Is that more than they've had all year? I was going to look.
Yeah, I think so. It was just, but a 5-sack game, that's embarrassing. If I'm the line coach, I got to get this fixed immediately. And a lot of it was inside pressure. It wasn't really on the outside. So what the Packers did today is it's called playing small ball. So they're trying to get it out in 3 steps a lot, right? Try to beat the pass rush. They couldn't run the ball again today. And anytime they tried throwing a ball down the field, they weren't taking sacks on 3-step drops, because in the gun, it's just a 1-step, right? They're taking on a 5-step or a 3-step drop out of gun. And it was just, they were getting so much push up inside, and they were doing it because of the games they were playing inside. And it happened before, but it didn't show up like it did today.
A lot of questions certainly around head coach Matt LaFleur. Let's hear from him inside the locker room after the team's first loss of the season, 13-10 to the Browns in Cleveland.
It was extremely disappointing, obviously, to be in a position to win the game at the end of the game, and to have the script totally flip on you with the block, and then them getting into field goal range. It's tough. It's tough to deal with, but you better learn from each and every opportunity that you go out there, in the wins and in the losses. You got to move on. So, I thought there were a lot of things, a lot of positives in regards to how our defense competed and played through 4 quarters. But one thing that we have to get corrected is, when you have 14 penalties in a game, it's going to be tough to overcome that. So we got to do a much better job of coaching the fundamentals, the details, and then we got to lock in at a higher level in regards to some of the controllable penalties, whether it's false starts or offsides or whatever we have. But ultimately, this is a total team sport. I thought we played well enough defensively to win the game, and didn't do a good enough job on offense and on special teams.
Coach, you talk about it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a game where at some point in the week it flipped. The Packers were 9.5-point favorites. Our friends at FanDuel had it down to, I believe, during our midweek show, Wednesday was at 7.5. It felt like
it got down to 6.5.
It got down to 6.5. When your initial reaction hearing head coach Matt LaFleur talk about that loss after that game?
Well, this is the second week he's said about penalties, right? And when you win a game, it's not like it gets swept under the rug. I'm sure that they talked about it, but they got 4 more than they did last week, right? And in a close game, you just can't do that. And he even mentioned like unforced error penalties, jumping off sides, lining up off sides. Those are all lack of concentration. That's it. You can teach a grade school kid what go on 1 or go on 2 as you can't, right? But you have to, and I know it might have been loud.
He's 5.
What's that?
My son can count to 2. He's 5.
Right. And if you tell him, you take a step forward on 1, he'll do it, and it's just that it bit him in the butt today.
So coach, you came in here saying, that you have, you win some and you learn some.
Right.
If you're the coaches and you're trying to take some lessons away from this game, what are you trying? Like, what do you see? What do you like? Okay, we learned this about the Packers then.
Right. Well, I think we need to be a lot better up front, but it always starts with guys up front. You can't rush the ball for, what did we rush the ball for? 2.6 yards. You need a lot. You need a lot more than that. You can't have
16 carries, 30 yards. That's less than 2 yards a pop.
2 point. Yeah, right. It was 2.6 for the whole game, and that's Jordan having like 3 runs around on the boots.
Yeah,
I just think that's included, right? So they have to do a lot better job. And I'll just speak like offensively. They didn't look in sync. It didn't, like the play calls usually, like they come in and it's not the timing. That's not the word I want to use. Just rhythm. The flow of the game. Usually, like you have the guy that's calling the plays. He gets them out fast. It just didn't seem like it was on rhythm. Is the word I'm looking for.
They used 3.
They didn't look in rhythm
because they couldn't get lined up and run a play. Like 3, I can't. Like I know Aaron Rodgers. It was a meme for a long time. He would run every play clock down to 0. And there were 1, maybe 2 times a game he's got to call timeout. I can't remember a game, Brandon, maybe you can, where they used 3 timeouts because they could not get lined up and set to run a play in a game. I can't remember 3. Like that's what I mean. The operation from this was a complete failure in every facet. Like it really was. And that's the part where you're just like, okay, that stuff just wasn't even on our radar. Like getting the play call in and getting lined up, that we didn't even think about that the first 2 weeks. Like that was not something we thought we were going to have to worry about with this version of the Packers.
Peter, what does it say about Matt LaFleur? We kind of talked about, you talked about the television broadcast, kind of playing scared to Myles Garrett. I thought we kind of talked about it in the group chat too, was like this Packers trading staff's kind of done a little bit of a 180, right? Jaden Reed playing on that foot. And then Zach Tom with a slight tear in his oblique, cleared after just 1 week of sitting, and he missed the Thursday night game against the Commanders. But I think that adds to your point that the Packers were definitely thinking about, scared, whatever, however you want to describe it, of Myles Garrett putting Zach Tom out there, who, by the way, lasted about 5 seconds in this one, out right after the first play of the game or during the first play of the game. I thought that was also, I think you were setting yourself up for failure with that one if you're Matt LaFleur in the offense, because now you're inserting. We saw Jordan Morgan go in there, and I still believe in Jordan Morgan. I still believe in that pick. I think the talent is there, but he's played 3 different positions now this season alone.
They got way too much dip on his chip. I really think that. Like they just need to let him be like Darian Kennard, who they brought in. Not Darian Kennard, not a first-round pick. They just said he's a right tackle. Like when they lost Rasheed Walker to the broken helmet, which was wild, by the way. All of a sudden the bar is like hanging down. They moved Anthony Belton from right tackle to left tackle. and played Kennard. They just said, Darian Kennard, you are a right tackle, period. I think they need to just pick a spot for Jordan Morgan, compete to play here. Now they partially haven't been able to, right? Because Zach Tom was hurt. It seems like that's probably what was going to happen. Maybe Jordan Morgan was going to rotate at right guard this week, but then now he's got to play tackle in a pinch. And so I feel like they're trying too much, and I'm worried that it's going to scuttle his development because he's not ever able to get settled at one spot. Now, I thought he looked best at left guard. I finally think he's the best left guard on this team, not named Elton Jenkins, and Elton Jenkins is the center now. So, like, Aaron Banks, by the way, like, I know we're 2-3 games in, but like that
bad
looks like a disaster at this point. And so that's tough. Now, new offensive line continuity is you need reps together. Like, Jags, talk to me about that. Like, am I overreacting here? But like, he's got to play too. He keeps getting hurt. That's part of the problem.
Right. I mean, you guys, we mentioned on the last show is like, you guys mentioned, it's like, who do you play? Do you play the guy like Tom, or do you like at 70%, or do you go with the guy that, and I always go with the guy that's not hurt, right? Because the guy's going to get hurt. How many linemen did we have up? If you guys knew the thing, did we have 9 linemen up today?
Donovan Jennings was inactive. So
8.
Yeah.
8. See, that's
8
what the
8 sounds
max.
Right. They would have had to have Belton, Morgan, and Kennard in addition to your starting 5. So you got to have at least 8.
Yeah, right. And then they started going down like flies, and then all of a sudden it's plug and play. And the thing is, we talked about a left tackle. That's a different position than a right tackle. It's like the Z and the X. Oh, they're interchangeable, but they're different, right? It's a different set. You're in a different stance. Your angle of departure is going the different way on a zone play, whether going right or to left. So all that stuff makes a big difference. And then when those guys don't play together, because it means a lot to play together. It really does. And we talk every week, Peter, right? And Brandon, reps. That's the only way that you're going to get better.
Tough one for the Packers, no doubt about it. We'll break down coming up after our first break the turning point when this game turned for the Green Bay Packers, who suffered, unfortunately, their first loss of the year, a 13-10 loss in Cleveland. We'll talk about when this game changed coming up after this. Today's Locked On Packers Squad Show is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and the fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes. All of that within less than 60 seconds. Download the Prize Pick app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Tough one for our Green Bay Packers, an ugly one from start to finish. No sugarcoating this one today. Their first loss of the season. We mentioned it, their first road trip of the season. And we're going to get into the turning point, but I kind of want to go back to you, Peter. I think for me, the most frustrating point of this loss was not only were they the better team. I firmly believe the Green Bay Packers are the better team. They play 10 times. The Packers will win 9 times, and today would be the
You're not really going
time.
out on a limb on this one.
Correct. But I think the biggest thing that bothers me, and Coach, you kind of hit on it too, is the undiscipline, the 14 penalties, the lack of energy, the lack of focus. It felt like the lack of rhythm, everything. You had 10 days to prepare for this Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
Remember, the Packers were on a Thursday night game back 10 days ago, and you had 10 days to get guys right. You had 10 days to, okay, we don't have Zach Tom at 100%. He's probably along the lines of 70. Let's use this extra time to make sure Anthony Belton is good to go at right tackle, even if he's got to go up against Myles Garrett. Let's game plan for him to have some help. It felt like, and I know a lot of people, Coach, I know you say players play, coaches coach. I feel like a lot of this falls on the back of head coach Matt LaFleur for just not having this team in total ready to play. It felt confused from the start.
Yeah, here's the thing, guys. And again, just being a ball coach, obviously it does fall on Matt as a head coach, having your team ready to play. But again, just as a coach, he wasn't out there snapping the ball. He wasn't out there jumping off sides. He was not out there getting late hit penalties. He was not out there throwing picks. And again, it does always come down to the head coach because the buck stops there, right? But Brandon, you said it, you took it out of my mouth, right? Players play, coaches coach, right? And yes, he's got to get those guys ready to play. Were they ready to play? Did they play to the Green Bay standard? When we talked about last week, it's like, it doesn't matter who we play. St. Rita's, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? You got to go out and play Packer football, and it doesn't matter who you're playing against. And I don't think they did that today.
And then to make matters worse, Brandon, to your point, I mean, the turning point piece, you go back and you look at the drive where Jordan Love throws the interception. I mean, what are the first two plays of that drive? They're running jet sweeps to Matthew Golden on those plays. Like, what is that about? Like, what like, that part, that felt desperate. That felt like Matt LaFleur was on tilt. Like, okay, this game should be over. Let's try and hit him here. And they do it twice in a row. And then on 3rd and 3, they line up. And like, I don't know why, to me, I don't know why you don't go play action there on 3rd and 3. You're trying to kill the clock. You're up a touchdown. And you're trying to make some muddy read in the middle of the field. Like, I don't want to do the Matt LaFleur thing and say, I got to watch the tape. We do have to watch the tape. And Jags, I'm going to try and convince you that we're going to watch that play together and break it down and just try and figure out what's going on there. But that whole sequence, to me, that's the turning point of this game. Like, they had the chance to either end it. Like, all they need is like 2 first downs there. And they called 2 jet sweeps. And then I don't know what else. And Jordan Love makes a terrible decision. I was waiting to hear what Jordan Love had to say, what Dontavian Wicks had to say, what Matt LaFleur had to say about that play in particular. So maybe we can get some more clarity on that. But I felt like it's either a terrible read, a bad throw, a bad read by Dontavian Wicks, or maybe all 3. But like those plays, that's the play. And when you have to have it, is some muddy read from the middle of the field with Dontavian Wicks. Like, I just felt like they tried to get by with their short week prep. And no one executed, no one showed up. And again, I don't want to put this all on the coaches. I think, Jags has sufficiently talked me down off some of the coaching stuff, but like some of the stuff I just really did not understand. That play from Jordan Love, what are you doing? If you put the ball in the dirt there, you kick the ball. Is there any chance the Browns are going to drive 75 yards for the game tying touchdown? There's a 0% chance. The only thing you cannot do there is throw an interception. And that's the thing that they did. And every bad thing that every NFC North fan base and every critical media person has ever said about Jordan Love and some of the decision-making and the end of game stuff, what is the counter today? There isn't one, because he did the thing that all his biggest critics say he always does. Even if he was on a 10-game to no interception streak, he did the thing that his biggest critics say he always does.
Yeah. Coach, wouldn't you agree, though, that a team is a direct reflection of their head coach? You talked about it.
It is.
You got to play disciplined football. Like, that starts and ends with head coach Matt LaFleur. And I go all the way back to, not to pat myself on the back here, but I go all the way back to our first show on the Locked On Packers squad show with who has the most pressure. And I said it was head coach Matt LaFleur, and I still stand by that for many reasons. But 14 penalties, it's been an ongoing problem in the first 3 games of the year. You lay an egg in a game where you absolutely should have won, and you had many opportunities within the game to actually win the game and get out of there. How do you coach? How does Matt LaFleur take this team and make them a more disciplined bunch? Like, are you sitting guys? Are you getting in front of the room and screaming at them? Are you putting the film on and pointing them out in front of the group? Like, how can Matt LaFleur right this run with this undisciplined football team right now?
Well, something that I would do, again, I wasn't a big yeller screamer. I thought that was just a waste of time, right? But that was me. It's just the way that I did it. But what I would do is I would take, and this would be like a little painstaking, I would take all those penalties, because there's 24 of them in the last 2 games. 24! Holy cow.
Awful.
And I would take them. And I would, why those things happen? That's exactly what this is why this happens. And I would give those 3 examples, Peter, that we talked about: lack of discipline, lack of self-control, lack of concentration. Those are there. And the other one that we touched on a little bit is not getting the plays in a timely fashion. That's the only penalty that's on a coach. But those other guys, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna add,
No, go ahead,
because
Peter.
Brandon's fishing for this. Matt LaFleur I just found it. Matt LaFleur took responsibility for the Jordan Love interception. Said not a good play call. They were in man coverage, but Grant Delpit actually passed off Tucker Kraft, who he theoretically has. And so they kind of trapped the Packers into that play. Matt LaFleur says, bad play call. That's on me. Still, if you're Jordan Love, like it seemed like a blind throw. Like I feel like I have to give at least partial blame to Jordan Love there. Again,
100%.
players play.
Yeah.
It's just you can't that can't be
take a sack.
You need to have a go-to play there. I felt like, guys, this is the third week of man coverage that this team has faced. Like I said all week, they've seen it. The Lions played a bunch of man coverage. The Commanders played a bunch of man coverage. Your man beaters, you've been repping them since August. And you came in and it was like they felt like they needed to do, I don't know, other stuff. We saw the Wildcat, like we saw them get a little tricky. I think part of it too, Jags, was they couldn't protect. And so some of those man beaters, like if you're going to run crossers, you're going to run mesh. They meshed the Lions and the Commanders to death. You got to protect to run mesh. You got to, if you're going to have those guys coming across and pick people off on those crossers, you have to have 3 seconds to throw the ball. And Jordan Love didn't have that all game. It was, at least in the middle of the third quarter, the highest pressure rate of a Matt LaFleur team in the next gen sports era. So the offensive line, I mean, they just didn't play well enough. Part of that is you got two backups out there, but this, you know, you have to win in the trenches. Luckily next week they go play a Dallas Cowboys team that does not have anybody to rush the passer. So because the one guy that they had now plays in Green Bay. But this offensive line, like you got to take it personal, right? Like Jags, if you're in that meeting room this week, you got to go, guys, this is not good enough. We got our asses kicked.
Right. So here's what they were doing, right? And like I said, both sides of the ball were doing this. So if you can't play, just growing up, if you can't play D-line, where do you go? O-line.
O-line, yeah.
Right. Because you're not as good as the D-line guys, right? And they're more athletic on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball. I think what we've got right now, it's really not an assignment thing. I think it's a technique thing right now. And a couple factors. One is they need to play together. And when you're getting twists, if there's a more athletic player and they make you move and you're less athletic, the offensive line they just are, right? And you start turning your shoulders when all of this, we talk about twists, all these things that are happening inside. Most of the pressure came up from the inside. It really wasn't from the outside, right? And most of the times they were twisting up front, and that made the O lineman get on different levels and start chasing. Because when you have a twist, you have to pass that off to the next guy next to you, the adjacent lineman. And as soon as you turn, that opens up the seam. And it's just more of a technique.
So Jags, let me play Brandon's role here. When you say pass off, we've talked about twist. We talked about what that means. What is the process to go through that? How do you coach that? Because in the game, I imagine this is like, you know, it's kind of like in basketball when you got to pick, you got to say, hey, I'm here. So what is that process like? What are the players actually doing when you say we're going to pass this off?
Right. So there's two parts of picking up a twist. There's a physical part of it and a verbal part of it. So when you start getting twists, first of all, you have to have a situational awareness. We've got a 3rd down and 8, guys, probably a pass. Mm-hmm. Hey, alert twist. Everybody's saying it, right? Center, alert the twist. And then it's physical. You can't just take a guy. This is perfect right here. Peter, you're the center, right? I'm a guard. Brandon, you're a guard, right? Brandon, you have somebody on your outside, and he loops all the way across your face. And if that guy's looping across your face, who does he go to next? Peter. Peter's got him, right? Let's do this.
Theoretically.
Well, Peter.
Well, I got him.
Exactly. Keep your shoulders square, damn it. So if it's on me, Peter, and that guy starts looping over the top of me, I have to slide into you and tell you to switch because you got my guy now, and I have to stay square. So what happens is I do this, Peter. You see what that gives me here?
Yeah. Jags is turning his back for those listening.
Yeah. Well,
turning to his side.
Yeah, but that's. Do you see how you get on different levels and you open up seams on a twist? That's kind of like a fundamental way of saying it, but that's how it is. And those inside 3 guys are responsible for the depth of the pocket. If you get
in the middle of the play, coach, you see that guy coming across. You just have to have the awareness to know that that's happening. Like it's sort of like in defense, you know, like if one guy's coming this way, another guy's got to go the other way, or are you actually physically, verbally communicating that mid-play?
Yeah, you first of all, you have to give a pre-game, right, or a pre-call, but with just situation awareness. Guys, this is a passing down. They're going to be twisting. Yeah. And they did just a ton of it today, right? So again, there's a looper. So the guy that's coming over the top, and there's a guy that's penetrating. He's trying to pick me off. And yes, you have to be physical to pass it off. You can't just pass it off to air. You can't do that. That's unfair to the guy next to you. And the other thing is twist, 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 switch, switch, switch. That's how you do it. You know, and it's happened too much today. Is when you go back, if I'm the line coach, Butkus is a line coach, and he does a good job. But we need to get that fixed. And there are drills that there's to do. And that's the hardest thing in pass protection is twist pickup.
But part of that too, Coach, is, and this goes back to the point that we were making about the decisions that get made in prep, is if you have a guy who's banged up and you make the decision, and by the way, Matt LaFleur also mea culpa. One thing that I will always appreciate about Matt LaFleur is he's going to take the blame. He will always stand up at that podium and say, this is on me. But he was like, this can't happen. Zach Tom re-injured the oblique. It seems like, they're probably going to have to sit him now. But now if you're working on that all week, and now Jordan Morgan is in there instead of, Zach Tom, that continuity is different. It's the same in basketball. Like, you got to know, hey, I'm going to go under screens in these situations. Hey, I'm used to hearing your voice in these situations. I got to communicate this. It all changes. And now when you're having to do that in the middle of the game, now Anthony Belton is switching sides. Jordan Morgan is switching from tackle to guard. It does create problems for your offense. And this is one of the best defensive fronts in the game, one of the best defensive lines in the game. They were top, I believe they were 6th and 4th in pass rush and run stop win rate. This is one of the best fronts in the game. The Packers made them look better. Part of that is you got backups in there, and that continuity problem is going to create issues. Here's the thing, guys. Every team has offensive line problems because they have injuries, and every team has to deal with this. So the Packers have to get this sorted out. Luckily, they have good players, good backups that they can play, but the communication, the focus, the details, they just weren't there. Like, they were playing backups last week too. Jordan Morgan and Anthony Belton had to play last week, and they played much better as a group than they did this week. So this is to me a mental thing more than it is a physical thing. They have the talent to do it. They were just not focused. They were not locked in this game.
Speaking of not being locked in, not being focused, my turning point was Jordan Love taking the sack, guys, at the end of the third quarter. I don't know.
I don't know. Play? Why?
I don't know. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I know it's like the armchair quarterback effect, and we're sitting here talking about what could have, should have been, but he doesn't take that sack. It's 3rd and 1. Okay, you start the fourth quarter. Let's say you run it up the middle with Josh Jacobs. Let's say you don't get the first down. It's 40 seconds off the game clock. How much time was left when the Browns blocked the field goal? 21. The game essentially would have been done. Obviously going into overtime. That was to me that was, Peter, to your point. It kind of summarizes everything up today. It just everything felt like pushed and pressured and trying to put a square peg in a round hole today for the Green Bay Packers. Well, it was just ugly.
You know what else, Brandon? So the Packers on the previous drive, they had just scored the touchdown to make it 10-0. They get a stop. It's 3rd and 1 to your point, but it's not just 3rd and 1. It's 3rd and 1 at their 44.
Great point. Yep.
So it's near midfield. If you just throw the ball away, Jordan Love, it's 4th and 1. You've got all the momentum. Maybe you go for it. Maybe you try the Packer push. Maybe that they tried earlier in the game, and you false started on. Don't go early. Come on.
Unless you're Philly, don't go early.
By the way, the last drive, Rasheed Walker got called for it. They went early 3 times.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Rasheed Walker went early every single time, and it's like, what are you doing? You don't need to get this yards. Like, just play the game. But if he just throws that ball out of bounds, if he just throws it into the balls of Carson Schlesinger, it's 4th and 1, and maybe you can go for it. And to your point, that just opens up so many more opportunities. Instead, you take this brutal sack, you lose 11 yards. Well, it's also yards that is field position, Jags. Like, that's a huge miss. Punting it from your 44, let's say they're going to punt, because maybe Matt LaFleur wouldn't have gone for it. Dan Campbell would have gone for it. I know that. But maybe Matt LaFleur would have punt. Well, punting it from your own 44 versus your own 33, there's a big difference in what you'd expect a punt to do. From your own 44, you should be able to pin them inside the 10.
Peter, am I mistaken this? But Couldn't we not just let the quarter run out?
Oh yeah, you could have.
Well,
Yeah.
dude.
Could have.
Okay, so here's the deal. I said,
I think he snapped it with 2 seconds left.
I think Jordan Love big brained it. I think he thought that they thought they were going to let the clock run. And so he's going, let's see if I can catch him napping here. And he didn't. And I think what he should have done is, as soon as he doesn't catch them napping and he has to roll out, just throw the ball out of bounds. And let's live to fight another down. But you're right. They could have just let the ball, they just could have let the clock run out. And that could have, to Brandon's point, if you let the clock run all the way out and then you run that play, same play, that's 30, 40 extra seconds. And maybe at the end, the Browns don't have the time to do anything. I mean, that I've sort of been radicalized by Brandon to say that was the turning point in the game, because it really was a huge play for a lot of reasons.
And it felt like the momentum too. It felt like the momentum, to your point, Peter, as well. Like it felt like the Packers were putting together a good drive. You know, a first down there again adds more pressure to the Browns having to score quicker, and you found yourself fourth and 13, and then you start the fourth quarter with a punt.
Guys, I'm gonna go about this. This is like a coaching deal now. Is like he's calling in the play. He needs to be aware of the clock too. Go, hey, listen, Aaron, we're good. Or listen, Jordan, we're good. Just let it run out. We're going to take it to the fourth quarter.
Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe,
I mean,
but maybe he gives Jordan that freedom to know, hey.
But that's come on.
But again, to our earlier point, Coach, and we got to get to the coach's classroom here. That is a direct reflection of the head coach, right?
Well,
like
that needs to be done.
That's been coached into Jordan. Like, hey, if you see this, go ahead and do that. If you see that, go and do this. And that's probably was one of those cases. And then obviously was the wrong decision, and it costed the Packers. And it felt like a little bit of the momentum was lost, and it certainly was. So again, a tough one for the Green Bay Packers. They do fall to the Browns for their first loss of the year, 13-10. A lot went wrong in this game. Some maybe went right. We'll see where Coach takes us as he goes into the classroom to dive into Coach Jags' classroom coming up after this. Today's Locked On Packers Squad Show is brought to you by Mazda. Moving the game forward. For those that believe it's just not about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move cultures, and they keep moving the game forward. Unfortunately, this week's moment that moved the game forward, we just talked about it. Jordan Love taking a sack to end the third quarter, giving the Cleveland Browns a little bit of momentum as they would come back, score 10 points in the last 30 and within 37 seconds to tie the game up and beat the Green Bay Packers on a game-winning field goal. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Ugly one today for the Packers. They fall to the Browns, which felt like so many opportunities, Coach, in this one for this Packer team. Once they got up 10, I'm going to tell you right now, between us and 283 people watching the show, I thought that was enough today for the Packers. The way that this game was going, I felt like the Green Bay Packers had done enough offensively. It wasn't pretty. It was quite ugly for most of that game, but it felt like the way the defense was playing, it was fantastic. Take us to class today. What did you see on the field that was good, maybe wasn't good, was bad, ugly? What you got for us today in the coach's classroom?
Okay. We've already touched on the twisting part and how that needs to get fixed, right? And if you just keep your shoulders square like the guys on the screen right here on picking up inside twists, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Okay, and you're
talking about the offensive line staying square to the defender.
Line. Right on that, because again, 5 sacks is unacceptable. All right, guys, let's talk about the pick. Okay, this is a staple 3rd down 3-6 call. All right. So what they were lined up in was trips, and the tight end was to the left, and there was 2 other receivers outside of him. We're all good on that, Peter? God, I wish I had my chalkboard with me. All right. And then they had an X receiver.
By the way, Brandon, we could use the chalkboard. If Jags want to do the chalk, we can't use the tape, but we can use the chalkboard.
I got it, because this would really explain it. Exactly. This is exactly what it was. So anyway, this is called, in a simple deal, is triple slant to the left where all the trips where the trips were, right? And then dragon is just slant flat on the backside. Okay.
Classic,
so they're in man.
McCarthy.
What's that?
Classic McCarthy.
Well, yeah.
Love Rodgers and McCarthy both love dragon.
I did too. And then you go line dragon, you got a single high beater and a 2 high beater. But anyways, so the triple slant, guys, how it's run is the tight end. You have to go through the inside shoulder of the defender on to inside of you. Okay. And if he had done that, he'd have got the ball. And he did do that. It was read wrong. So it's always inside out on this throw, on a triple slant. So the number 1 or the number 3 receiver, the tight end, goes through the inside hip of the guy on the inside of him. The number 2 receiver does exactly the same thing. And if that takes a defender with him, that leaves the outside guy runs like a 5-yard in route. Okay. And the way it's read is inside out. And he threw it to the number 1 receiver, and that's like the 3rd read. If I guarantee you, he had one of those other 2 guys wide open. And he could have just threw it to the tight end or whoever the H was, the number 2.
So I'm watching it now, Coach. So he threw it to Wicks, who was the 2 on that route. Interestingly, though, Kraft is running like a slant, and he almost like cuts it up the middle.
Yep.
I assume to hold the safety to give some window to throw that ball into Wicks.
Right.
And Delpit just doesn't. He drops off. So it like Love never sees him. I think what happens is Love is ready to fire, and Delpit just reads it. And I think you mentioned that they ran this play earlier in the game, right? They ran it for a key 3rd down conversion, and I think it's possible at least that the Browns were sitting on it, that they thought, okay, you're going to get triple slants here.
Great. So here's the deal. So was the tight end open?
No, because it's hard to say for sure, because by the time Love is coming away, separating to throw it, Delpit is coming off of the tight end coverage. If he stays vertical, yes. So like if Love has an extra half second to just pat it, to see it and pat it, Kraft is wide open. But I don't know how you do that on quick game.
Well, that's it. But that's his first read, though. It's if he gets inside, and it's that ball's really not thrown very often, but it does happen. And if the tight end's going through the inside, he's not getting to the safety. That ball's out. It's 3rd and 3, right?
Yeah.
And then number 2, does he cross the face of the defender?
He crosses his corner's face, but then because Delpit falls back, then Delpit sort of is able to play 2. It's I think it's a really good play by Grant Delpit.
100%.
I'll tell you what, I gotta see it though. But from what I saw on that, I mean, he got undercut. The ball shouldn't go to that guy. He should either gone to the tight end right now. And if it's a 3-step drop, it's 3rd and 3, just dump it to the tight end. He's got plenty of time to do that because that's his first read. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm watching it again. He does have time. If he needs to get to 2, he can get there. Like he's throwing it to 2, but I wonder if he predetermines that this ball is going to Wicks. I mean, the way that this ball comes out fast, it just seems like he's once he sees Delpit take 1 step to Kraft, he's going to Wicks, and never confirms that Delpit carries him up the field. He just knows that they've got man coverage. So I think he kind of just got really unlucky.
Even if he predetermines it though, right? Like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but even if he predetermines I'm going to go to Wicks, like throwing it in the middle of the field in that situation is ill-advised. The only way.
I'll also add this: the throw is terrible. It's a terrible throw. Like it is. And I think it's possible. And I'm not going to get in the head of Jordan Love here, but like Delpit catches the ball on his knees at the 29.
Yep.
Dontavian Wicks is on the 31.
I think he's got to
maybe he is trying to dirt it, but I think more likely he thinks Wicks is going to be open, because if Delpit goes with Wicks, goes with Kraft, he is open. But I think it's a bad decision, a bad read, and a bad throw. And that's just like, you can't have those mistakes if you're Jordan Love.
And the other thing is, I don't know what they ran on the other side on the single receiver side. If it was man coverage, really that's your first go, because it's single high, 2 high. If it's to the boundary, that's a slant flat or dragon, right? And that could have been your throw as well.
I think
so
too.
Opposite, because they're in 11. Opposite is a one-on-one with Romeo Dobbs, and you can't really see what happens with Dobbs.
I got you.
But
I bet that's what it was.
Running a little. It really looks like a sacrificial X fade on the backside. It's hard to tell what he's doing, but Matthew Golden does on the top side, far all the way to the boundary. He's swallowed, so he doesn't win. So this would have been the only play he has is to get to Kraft on a second reaction play. If he sees Delpit lurking and he lofts the ball, Tucker Kraft might score. But that's like impossible to. That's not the read. That's not the way it works. That's just
the read is the tight end, though.
Well, right. Your point, Jags, is you got to read that tight end. That's the first read. Maybe he should have hung a second more. If he hangs with it a second more, maybe that creates the window to get it to Wicks.
Even if he takes a sack, the Packers probably win this game.
That's exactly right.
Tough one.
Let the clock run out.
Yeah. Everything that went wrong for the Green Bay Packers went right at the end of the game for the Cleveland Browns. They suffer their first loss of the season. Before we send things off, let's get into some game balls and our final thoughts after the Packers' first loss of the season. Coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Packers Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game even more exciting. Either when you lose 13-10, it makes it a little bit more exciting. Just ask Peter. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And if that first $5 bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. Once again, FanDuel.com. The Cleveland Browns needed to score 10 points in 37 seconds to walk off the Green Bay Packers today, and they did just that. Peter, your final thoughts before we dive into the unfortunate reality of handing out game balls to somebody else on a winning team, not including the Green Bay Packers. Your final thoughts in this one as the Packers fall to 2-1 on the season.
It's just one game. It's just one game. And I love, Jags always coaching, always teaching. You got to learn from it. It's got to be a reminder, a reality check. You hope you don't need a reality check in week 3. But here it is. You have to show up, and you can beat anybody now. Like, they've made it clear they can beat anybody in the league. Okay, now you have to play that way every single week. And if you don't, you're going to get beat. And so, like, don't overreact to this game. The Ravens lost to the Browns last year, and the Ravens were the favorites to win the Super Bowl, like until the ball clanged off Mark Andrews' hands in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. And if he just catches that ball, they probably win the Super Bowl anyway. So it's just one game, but there's still plenty to clean up here. The penalties. They have to correct that. If they get the penalties corrected, like, maybe they can play a B plus game most weeks and win. That's the thing. It is just one game, but there's plenty to clean up here. Yeah.
Just a couple things, guys. You have to be able to be willing to play to the last play of the game to win a game. And I tell my teams all the time that, and it always happens. You're going to be in a position, and Packers were in it today, and so is Cleveland, that they have to go ahead and make a play on the last play of the game. They didn't quit. And you know what? Everybody's getting paid. And there's a really old adage in football doesn't care. Football doesn't care if you got 5 guys that are cripples on the offensive line, or they don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. You got to go out there and play. All you guys are getting paid a lot of money. And here's the only thing that I would say about we talked about with the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, Peter, was like the speed of it.
Yeah.
You can't simulate the speed of Garrett or Parsons. You can't simulate that. That's why they had so many guys, and they were so aware of, we need to have an extra guy over on Parsons. We need to have an extra guy on Garrett. But it's hard to simulate that speed, especially whether you're a starter or you're not. You're all at practice, right? So it's hard to simulate that. They'll get it fixed, but I think it's a technique issue more than, it's not an assignment issue.
To Peter, you said it's only one game, and I agree with you, but it's one massive missed opportunity for this Green Bay Packers team. We talk about it so many times throughout every single year when it gets into December and it gets into early January, and then you look up at the standings, you're like, oh, well, we need Philly to go, 1-2 over their last 3 games so that we can climb back into the race. Good teams don't lose these type of games. Like, I know you mentioned the Ravens, and I know you mentioned, that they had an opportunity and they lost.
But Brandon, good teams do lose these games. They lose these games all the time.
But not in the fashion that this team lost this game, Peter. Like the
Ravens
defense.
The Ravens did it to the Raiders and the Browns.
But the thing that the difference is with this one is the Packers lost the game where their defense gave up essentially 3 points. I know 13's on the board, but I mean they handed them 7 points.
Again, the Ravens did the same thing where the offense couldn't score, but the defense played well. Like these games do happen. Good teams do lose these games because it's just like things happen. You're never going to go through a season.
Things happen, but 14 penalties don't happen.
I get it, but I'm just saying you're rarely going to go through a season where you only lose to better teams. And the Packers may be the better team in every game they play. And so they're going to lose a couple. They weren't going to go undefeated. I'm sorry, Rasheed Walker looks extra stupid this week for saying
you knew when that made it to the internet that it wasn't going to age well, and it took 4 days.
I understand your point, but the thing is we see good teams lose these games every year. Every year we see just a brain fart.
It felt like, and you guys, again, maybe I'm getting a little bit too far in front of my skis. It felt like a great opportunity for this team to begin the season. We had talked about it before during the preseason for the squad show. That was like, man, if this team if they can manage to go 1-1, they're going to be in good shape, right? And then they go 2-0, and then you're like, this defense is really good. Like, okay, the offense hasn't been there, but they're close. It's a tough Cleveland Browns defense, but they could definitely win that game. And you were seconds away from a 3-0 start, going down to a showdown.
A blocked kick away from a 3-0 start.
Correct. With the Cowboys for Sunday Night Football. And then you have an early bye week, which is now coming at a great time, I feel like, for the Packers. But it felt like a missed opportunity to capitalize. Coach, you talk about quarters of a season, right? The first, it's kind of different now, obviously, because of the extra game. But it felt like the Packers let an opportunity slip that I hope one doesn't cost them when we're having the same conversation or a post game into December or January. Like, man, if we could have just found a way to beat Cleveland, who's now in contention for a top 5 pick for the upcoming draft. Like, if we could have found a way to beat Cleveland on the road where we were better than for 95% of that game, and we allowed that team that's going to be picking another quarterback for their franchise, we allowed them to score 10 points in 37 seconds. That's
and it could be the difference. You hope it isn't, but it could be the difference between a 1 seed and not. It could be a difference between you get your golden ticket to the divisional round versus not, because the Eagles won this exact sort of game on Sunday. They blocked the field goal, run it back for a touchdown to win the game.
They won a game where Jalen Hurts had 98 passing yards.
I mean, Brandon, they never throw the ball. They never have passing yards. He hasn't had 200 passing yards this season, and they're 3-0. So, I mean, and you know what's funny, guys, is if they played the Eagles next week, it would not change my confidence in their ability to beat the Eagles, because I just know they'll be up for that game. They got up for the Cowboys. They got up for the Commanders. They weren't up for this game. Does that fall on LaFleur, Coach? Yes, but my point is, in the playoffs, which is this season is measured by playoffs, you have no choice but to get up for those games. Like, there is no letdown games in the playoffs. Every game is that game. And so I don't think this game says anything about their ability to win in January. And that's all I really care about right now.
And what do we want to do, guys? We want to progress as we go forward, right? And here's the thing that you have to have. As a football coach, you have to get that stuff corrected. You got to get it correct. The penalties got to get corrected. Again, those are penalties that have nothing to do with talent. Not one. Lining up right, not going off sides, has nothing to do with talent. And the thing is you've got, Brandon, you mentioned it. It's a marathon, and we got one more game for the first quarter of the season. Guys, it went like that. Just like that.
That's
right.
Crazy. Yeah.
And you will every season, every team always does. It's like, damn, that one kind of got away from us. That one mattered. And then again, it might not, but you're always going to point to something, right? This isn't going to be the first game where it's like, well, what the hell was that? I hope not a lot, but it's a long ass season, right?
And you'd rather it be this week than next week. Certainly.
But the problem I have, and we can discuss this on Wednesday on our midweek show. The problem I have, Peter, is that now you were a minute away from 3-0 start. Now you're looking at a Dallas team that is currently losing to a Bears team right now that might be 1-2, is going to be desperate on Sunday Night Football. Now are you looking at a must-win game? Because I'm going to tell you right now, going into a bye week at 2-2 after this start for the Packers would be a massive disappointment with the Browns and the Cowboys after you start the season.
Well, especially because the Packers, depending on what happens in this game, the Packers are probably going to be between 3 and 6 point favorites in Dallas anyway. So, I mean, even if the Cowboys come back and, as we're recording this, it's a 3-point game, but even if they come back and win by 15, the Packers are going to be favored in Dallas on Sunday. So the idea you would lose 2 games where you're favored on the road against inferior opponents, that would be tough regardless, right? Like regardless of whatever happened or how it happened.
Yeah.
Coach, we got it. Go ahead.
We're good.
I said, unfortunately, we got it. We got to do it. We got to hand out game balls to whoever. The Packers losing for the first time this season. This is the first time we're dealing with a loss, guys, and I'm trying to put it all together here. But we do got to hand out game balls. Coach, I'll start with you.
Yep.
Handing out a game ball in a 13-10 loss, a collapse in Cleveland.
I am. I tell you what, we got our rookie first rounder had 9 touches today, and he had 4 touches in the passing game and 4 attempts. So we're good on that. We're finding a way to get him the ball. Hey, even on the jet sweeps, right? If you're a 4-2 guy, and the thing is, they couldn't run between the tackles, could they, guys? That's why they started throwing some screens, and they started throwing like fast bubbles out to Jacobs and all that. That's what I do. But I tell you what, if we could get that kid 9 touches every game, something special is going to happen.
He should have scored a touchdown on the third down throw. I mean, he kind of, it was like he forgot where he was on the field for a second. He caught it. It was expecting to get hit and then was like, oh, and then kind of ran out of bounds. Didn't you think when he caught the ball, that was a touchdown?
Should have been.
Yeah, but it looked like it was a broken coverage for sure, right? I don't know what the heck they were trying to play, but the corner didn't back up, and he didn't think that he had over-the-top help, which would that's an error.
And the safety misplayed it. The safety I think he took a bad angle or something because Golden was in the clear.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of on the outside shoulder. I don't know.
Momentum probably taking him
It
over,
would
but
have
it
been
felt
the
like
inside shoulder.
It was on the outside shoulder, 3 yards from the sideline. No,
yeah, he had plenty of space. Peter, game ball.
I got to give the game ball to Jim Schwartz. I thought he had Matt LaFleur playing scared from the jump, and maybe I should give it to Myles Garrett because I think that's where it all started. But I thought Jim Schwartz, he kind of had the punches read. He had the playbook. He was reading Matt LaFleur's mail a little bit there, I think. And there are a couple times where I thought, Browns guys jumped routes where I was like, oh, they kind of knew that was coming. And so I'll give my game ball to Jim Schwartz. I think he deserved it. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator. It's a tough one.
To go off of your point there with Jim Schwartz, Malik Collins is going to get mine. And it's not because he led them with 1.5 sacks. It's because he shut down everything up the middle for this Packers offense, whether it be Jordan Love, obviously Malik Collins leading the game with 1.5 sacks, but it was the running game as well. We talked about it in the group chat. Like maybe this is the Josh Jacobs drive and Malik Collins shutting it down. Just a tough one for the Packers, a collapse in Cleveland. The title of this show, they fall to 2-1 on the season. We'll discuss throughout the course of the week if they can get things going in the right direction against Micah Parsons' old team. They'll travel down to Dallas. So it'll be a late one next weekend for us. Hopefully the Packers can get back into the win column. A friendly reminder, the Locked On Packers Squad Show and Daily Show with our guy Peter Bukowski there, free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts, as well as over on YouTube. For Peter Bukowski, for Coach Jags, and myself, we will sign off for now. A tough one to swallow. The Packers falling to the Cleveland Browns 13-10. Thanks to each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Thank you for always making Locked On Packers part of your day each and every day. And despite the tough loss, make sure you stay Locked On Packers.